Welcome to this explainer on Chapter 4 of KSSM Science Form 1. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating and essential biological progression, the cycle of life. We're going to break down the science of how living organisms ensure their species survive generation after generation. It's a journey connecting humans, animals, and even the plants right outside your window. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the basics of reproduction, move into human systems and cycles, track fertilization to birth, discuss infertility and contraception, branch out into plant reproduction, and wrap up with a summary and a couple of quick revision questions.
All right, Section 1, Basics of Reproduction.
So why is reproduction so absolutely essential? The answer is pretty straightforward. It's all about producing a new generation and preventing the extinction of a species. Without it, every single living lineage would eventually hit a dead end. It is literally the ultimate survival mechanism for life itself. Life basically relies on two main methods to pull this off. Sexual reproduction requires two parents and reproductive cells, which gives us genetic variation. That means the offspring are actually different from the parents. On the flip side, asexual reproduction involves just one parent producing an exact genetic copy. No variation there. And for those organisms that reproduce asexually, the methods are surprisingly diverse. You've got binary fission, where a single cell, like an amoeba, literally splits right down the middle. Then there's budding, seen in hydras, where a new individual sprouts directly out of the parent's body. We also see regeneration in starfish and planaria, spore formation, scattered by the wind, and vegetative reproduction, where a whole new plant grows from just a root, stem, or leaf. Think ginger or potatoes.
Moving on to Section 2, Human Systems and Cycles.
Let's talk human anatomy. The male testes produce sperm, and the female ovaries produce the ovum. Now, these organs mature and undergo massive physical changes during puberty. For females, this usually kicks off between ages 10 to 12, marking the start of the menstrual cycle. For males, it typically starts a bit later, around 14 to 17, kickstarting sperm production and bringing about physical changes like deeper voices and facial hair. What's really wild is the sheer difference in scale between these two gametes. The male sperm is actually the smallest motile cell in the male body. It comes equipped with a head and a tail for swimming. Contrast that with the female ovum, which is the largest cell in the female body and doesn't move on its own. Fun fact for you, scientist Antonie von Leeuwenhoek was the very first person to observe these tiny swimming sperm cells under a microscope, all the way back in 1677. These structures are all regulated by the 28-day menstrual cycle. It kicks off with the menstruation phase from days 1 to 5, which is simply the breakdown of the uterine lining. That's followed by the repair phase from days 6 to 11, where the lining thickens back up with blood vessels. Around day 14, right in the fertile phase, a mature ovum is released. Finally, the premenstrual phase from days 18 to 28 sees the uterus richly supplied with blood, completely prepped for a potential embryo. And it's definitely worth mentioning, maintaining personal hygiene during this cycle is totally vital to prevent infections. Next up, Section 3, Fertilization to Birth.
So, following fertilization, which happens when a sperm successfully fuses with an ovum right inside the fallopian tube, that resulting single cell is called a zygote. The zygote gets right to work, rapidly dividing into a ball of cells called an embryo, which travels down and implants itself in the thick lining of the uterus. Over the course of about 38 weeks, this embryo develops into a fetus, gradually taking on human features, leading all the way up to the incredible moment of birth.
During that crucial 38-week window, the fetus relies 100% on the mother for nourishment, transmitted through the placenta and umbilical cord. This means it's absolutely crucial for an expectant mother to maintain proper nutrition and completely avoid harmful substances like smoking, alcohol, and drugs to ensure the healthy development of the fetus. And once the baby arrives, breastfeeding is supremely important to provide the best possible nutrients and antibodies.
Let's pivot to Section 4, Infertility and Contraception.
Sometimes the reproductive system faces challenges. Infertility can stem from a low sperm count or poor sperm quality in males, or issues like blocked fallopian tubes or abnormal ovaries in females. But modern medical science offers some truly remarkable treatments for this. We're talking hormone injections, corrective surgery, or IVF, in vitro fertilization. That's where the sperm and ovum are fused in a glass dish to create a test tube baby, which is then carefully placed back into the uterus. On the other hand, when it comes to family planning and preventing pregnancy, couples might opt for permanent surgical contraception.
A vasectomy involves cutting and tying the sperm ducts in males, ensuring no sperm is released during ejaculation. Conversely, a ligation cuts and ties the fallopian tubes in females, physically blocking the ovum from ever having the chance to meet the sperm. All right, time to branch out. Section 5. Plant reproduction.
In the plant kingdom, the equivalent to mating is a process called pollination. Simply put, it's the transfer of pollen grains, which are the male gametes, from the anther of a flower over to the sticky female stigma. Since plants obviously can't walk around to find a mate, they rely on agents of pollination. They might use the wind, or they might grow bright, colorful petals to attract insects and animals to do the heavy lifting for them. Now, plants can undergo self-pollination, where pollen is transferred within the exact same flower or to another flower on that same exact plant. Or they can engage in cross-pollination, where pollen travels to a completely different plant of the same species. Cross-pollination is actually fantastic for creating healthier seeds with genetic variation, proving once again just how versatile nature is at ensuring survival. And finally, Section 6, Summary and Revision Questions. Let's do a rapid-fire recap of our journey today. We explored the sheer necessity of reproduction to prevent extinction. We contrasted sexual and asexual methods, mapped out human reproductive anatomies, and traced the 28-day menstrual cycle. We followed the miracle of pregnancy from zygote to birth, tackled the medical realities of infertility and contraception, and wrapped up with how plants achieve fertilization through pollination. Now, let's test your active recall. Ready? Question 1. Do you remember the specific anatomical location where the sperm and ovum actually fuse together in the female reproductive system? If you said the fallopian tube, you nailed it. That narrow passage is exactly where fertilization happens, and where the incredible 38-week journey of the zygote kicks off. Let's try one more. Think back to the timeline of the menstrual cycle. What's the specific biological term for that mid-cycle event on day 14 when a mature ovum is released? If you're shouting ovulation at your screen right now, you are spot on. We'll leave you with this final reflective thought from the text. Each living being has the right to live, continuing the incredible cycle of life. It reminds us that understanding the science of reproduction is, at its core, understanding the continuity of all life on Earth. So, as you look at the natural world around you today, ask yourself, how many unseen miraculous cycles of reproduction are happening right at this very moment, just to keep our planet green and thriving? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep that curiosity growing.